Good.
Hi.
I'm pretty good.
We'll get started in just a few minutes. I'm going to give some people a little bit more time to come in.
Okay.
And then we'll get started.
Sounds good.
Everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. And can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Perfect. So we'll start in just one more minute. If you do have any questions, just put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand or just yell it out while I'm talking about the assignments. I'm going to try to go through everything today and explain kind of what you have due for this week. It's not that difficult, really. It's just kind of getting the foundations of the class. I know that I posted a lot of videos to watch. But that is invaluable in reference to kind of going through each of the slides. This PowerPoint lecture that you have is kind of the foundations of understanding interpersonal communication. And so it's probably the most amount of slides that you'll have in one setting. So what I said in the announcement was that it'd take you about 2 weeks to get through the videos and, going over the PowerPoint. So don't freak out, the amount of content or the time that it might take to watch the videos. But I totally recommend watching them, especially for the examples that I offer. I'm going to talk about some of those today, but I really do dive deep into those explanations in the videos. And I highly recommend in your free time, making sure that you watch them, because it's going to be stuff that I test you on your first test. It's going to help with your assignments that you're doing for skill assignments and stuff like that. So just make sure that you're not just reading the announcement and not watching those links, because they are invaluable. So if you can see the screen, you can see that I have put it up on the COS portal. The one that you're going to need to look at for Canvas is right there. We reviewed all of this last week, so I'm not going to go over it in a lot of detail. But what I am going to say is that your class for this week has everything that you need to know on week 2. So if you just look at the student view of Canvas, the way that I have it up here, I have it set up like a first week still, because I kind of look at the first 2 weeks as the getting to know the class. After this first week, I'll change this homepage. It'll be more immediate, like what's due and stuff like that. But I like to keep it on this because if you didn't have time to read about the class, the syllabus, the class calendar, all the details, then I highly recommend that you go through this. Again, the to-dos that are listed on the right, don't freak out. There are, due dates that are on there, but those are just saying, make sure you read this or make sure you do this stuff. A lot of stuff that you don't have due, right off the bat, but you should be thinking about it as it's coming due. So if I look at the announcements, the ones that we talked about last week are the week 1 update, the class calendar, and then the syllabus. And then I did send out last week's video Zoom, and that video Zoom, what I provided was kind of what we talked about in our first meetup. So I gave instructions about assignments. I talked a little bit about the syllabus and the class calendar. I discussed kind of how the class works. So if you did not attend last week's Zoom meetup, I highly recommend that you click this link and you watch these 3 things that are here, because it kind of dives into all of the things that we discussed about the class in reference to how much work there is, what the assignments are like, who I am. All that stuff is going to be very important. Now, if you are wanting to jump and really make sure that you are, getting together what's due for this week, then you can look at the most recent announcement, which is this week 2 update. I send it out on Sunday. Sometimes I'll send it on Sunday. Sometimes I'll post it on Monday. It just depends on how ahead of the schedule that I am. You always should pay attention to these links. So for example, if you had already done the introduction, you could click it and see what you made on the assignment. I try to grade those as quickly as possible. Your class my grades have been put in for that assignment. So if you want to know what you made on it, click that assignment. It's going to tell you what your grade was, or you can go over to grades and see it there. Then if you want to see what's due for this week, you have the week 2 participation assignment, and you have the first lecture that is due for this class. So for example, this is the PowerPoint that I was talking about. Oh wait, no, it's not. It's the link to the first video. So that's the first video, but the PowerPoint is in this week 2. So the PowerPoint is this slide right here. And as you can see, it has, let me see how many slides. It's like 58 slides, which is a lot. And so that's why I give you 2 weeks to kind of disseminate the information, but you are going to need to know some of it for your first upcoming assignments. But you'll see that, it says 58, but I try not to just, put everything on one screen. I want you to think about it as I'm presenting it. And I talk through it a lot on the videos that I provided you with, the lecture videos. So this PowerPoint is kind of the details of, kind of what's on your test. It kind of explains the definitional stuff. What is interpersonal communication? How is that different from impersonal communication? So interpersonal is looking at 2 people in a unique interaction, where impersonal would not be unique. So it's like me going to the gas station and say, I want $20 on pump 4, and everybody's coming up and doing that. That's very impersonal. But the moment I start to self-disclose and I talk to people and I give out information and I build uniqueness, that's what makes it interpersonal. And again, all of those examples are in these lecture videos that are connected here. So once you go to this assignment, if you look at the announcement, let's go back to that really quickly one more time. If you go to that announcement and you click on it, you will see that I say right here, follow this link, this first video. But this is the start off video for that PowerPoint lecture. And then I list the rest of them in this participation link. So this is the first one, which is right there. And then it goes first, second, third, and fourth. You could watch the first 2 this week and then watch the second, 2, the third, and the fourth video next week, when we won't be actually having class. We're doing the interviews. And so the reason I front loaded is that way you could get through it in 1 week and then you wouldn't have to worry about it next week. All you have to do is your interview. But for those of you who are really busy and you got lots of other classes or family obligations, then you could watch 2 this week and 2 the following week. Now, the assignments that are connected to this, one is the reading assignment. That's chapter 1 and chapter 2. If you go to this link, it takes you to the first chapter. You can actually read this chapter without having to buy the book. If you did not buy the book, you definitely want to make sure that you're using this link to get the valuable information that you can. You can pass the class without the book. I know that some people, pinching pennies and trying to save money around, what they're buying and not buying, totally fine. But just make sure if you're definitely not buying the book, you absolutely are reading the PowerPoints and watching those lecture videos. Because whatever is talked about in those videos is also in the book. It's just explained in more detail. So for example, if you do have the book, it's going to give you more context and more examples. So that's why I say that it's invaluable when you go to study for the test or answer questions on the test, stuff like that. Now, if you go and you clicked on week 2 or chapter 2, you'll see that that's not live. They don't allow you to see the second chapter of the book. You have to buy that. You can get it through the COS bookstore. You might even be able to find it online on eBay or on even on Amazon. I know I've seen it listed in lots of other places. There's also a Facebook COS student group. You could post on there that you're looking for the book. I use it every semester, and so does other instructors in the comm department. So that's another option. You could just look for it on Facebook or online. Now let's get to what you really want to know, which is the assignments. As I said before, fairly easy. You would go to this assignment link, which you can find right, I'll show you just one second, right here. Oh wait, we're already in it. Sorry, I'm a doofus. If you click this, you submit it right there. And so your assignment is going to look where it has that submit button up there. And now you're just going to type in either text entry right here. So number one, my answer is whatever. And so there's no right or wrong answer to this first question. It's just you analyzing the quote that is listed on this first slide. So the quote is, "Our willingness to connect with others determines the quality of our lives." So where do you believe that you've seen that to be true? Where do you disagree with that? Where have you seen it in your personal life? Or, what examples can you give? That only has to be 3 to 5 sentences. As I said before, there's no right or wrong answer, but you would just be analyzing the quote and what it means to you in that answer. Then you'd go down and you'd answer number 2, which is illustrate the transactional model of communication. Now, if you haven't watched the lecture videos or you haven't gone over the PowerPoint, you don't even know what the transactional model is. So that means that you're going to need to do that to be able to understand it more adequately. So you could find an image online that shows you that video, shows you that description. So for example, I did that to give you an example right here, but you can't use the one that I used. This is the one that I found. You have to find a different one, or you have to draw it yourself. So you could draw it on a sheet of paper, upload the image to this document, and all you would do to do that is you go here and you'd upload a file. So you just play with this 3 little multiple semicolons, and you can either do a link where you're linking us to where you found an image of it online. You could either upload a file, a document, you could upload a photo. There's all kinds of different ways that you can show me the image. You could even type it out. So if I did S, which is sender, and then I say that sender is sending a message to the receiver, who can also send a message back. I could draw it out in that manner as well, but I don't have to do that. But I do have to show the model, either uploading an image, drawing the model myself, but I'm trying to make sure I show that I understand the components. And so I say on here, just make sure you include include at components. It's supposed to say include at least 5 components, but because I didn't put a number, I'm not going to make you just include some of the components, and I'll edit that so it is more clearly read. But what you're trying to do is just make sure that we understand what that model is. Sender is speaking to the receiver, they're communicating together, understanding that there's influences that play into that while we're communicating with each other. If you're not watching the videos, again, it's going to be harder to understand. That's why you have to watch the videos for the class. Now, number 3, what type of interpersonal communication script do you think you've been taught? So for example, here I might talk about, I was raised in a divorced household. I struggled to understand and build trust because of that. So when I'm dating someone, I really struggle with trusting them. And that's something I know I need to work on. Or I was raised in a house that was the leave it to beaver. Everything seemed perfect, but we never talked about conflict. And so I never really saw how to resolve conflict because everybody just kind of, kept their conflict to themselves. And I know that I need to process more, if I'm frustrated instead of becoming resentful. You can say whatever you want, but what type of script, what do you think you were given as examples about how you communicate interpersonally? So what do you think you were taught by what you watched at the parental units? And it doesn't, not just mom and dad, but what did you see happening in your family around interpersonal relationships? How was conflict resolved? What did you see in reference to romantic relationships? What kind of script did you get? Now, this has to be at least 3 to 5 sentences. No one will see the answer but me. So I encourage you to be honest, because it kind of gives me a flavor for the class about where people are coming from, what their experience was like. So for example, I've had students talk about being in abusive relationships and how they struggle to find a relationship that they feel safe in because they watched abuse when they were growing up. And so whenever they're dating someone, they're always waiting for the shoe of the other shoe to drop of where conflict is going to be violent and oppressive. And so another trust issue that has to be worked out. Or people will talk about, I've had a great dating relationship. I feel like my communication is really strong. I talk about things when they're bothering me, whatever it may be. No right or wrong answer. Same thing with how would you describe your history of interpersonal relationships? This is not only looking at romantic relationships. So for example, you could say, I've never really dated anyone. I just have had, friends and, best friends. I tend to really, focus on friends while I'm focusing on school, or I've dated someone long-term and I broke up with them because I wanted to focus on school, whatever you want to tell me. And no one reads it but me, but it's to give me an understanding about what your relational history is. And it's not only romantic. So for example, what's your friendships like? What's your family relationships like? What's your colleague relations? So student friendships, coworker relationships. How would you describe, the dynamics of your interpersonal relationships? Do you avoid relationships? You're very introverted. You don't like to have intimate relationships with people. Whatever your answer is, again, no right or wrong answer. You would just submit it for number 4. So number 4 would be history of relationships. And then number 5, really easy. I've got to click on this link. I've got to go to this document, which is our interview sign-up document. And you've got to sign up for when you want to do the one-on-one interview with me during week 3. So for example, if you want to get it over with Wednesday morning at 7:45, then you just sign your name right here. You put your CRN in that space. So for example, for this class, it is 27153. And then that lets me know that on Wednesday morning at 7:45, this is the student that I'm meeting with, and this is the class that they're coming from. And so you don't have to do anything for that interview assignment except for sign up for it in advance and then show up for that time. Now, let's talk about what that's going to look like, because you do have some assignments that are connected to that. First, I want to take a break because I know I've given you lots of information. But this, if you haven't done this, you should do it as quickly as possible. So any questions that anyone has right now?
I just have one.
Yep.
So the second question to our assignment is just going to be a picture, not.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. As long as the picture demonstrates some of those components, totally fine.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. The illustrate means draw it or find a picture.
Okay.
Exactly. You can't just type out that, transactional means that one person's talking to another person and they're talking, simultaneously through verbal and nonverbal. You can't do that. You have to illustrate it in any way that you want.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Good question. Anybody else? Questions?
Yeah, what are the videos that you're talking about?
So if you go right here, these videos that are right there in Zoom, I mean, not Zoom, in on YouTube, I have the links in the assignment tab. And if you just click on them, it's going to go to me lecturing right here. And that's explaining the PowerPoint.
So let's look at what is interpersonal communication.
So that video is going to start the lecture for this PowerPoint slides. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so you want to definitely watch 1 and 2 by the end of the week. It would be awesome if you watched all 4. That way you don't have to worry about them next week. But by the end of next week, you should have all 4.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, okay. Now, let's do one other thing. I want to show you this. So if I go to the modules right here, leave. And I look at this, I know that, so in the announcement, I think I say, hold on, let me just make sure. It says, oh yeah, so it says each week this class should take about 4 hours of your time. Don't work to speed through it, blah, 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 blah. The reason I say that is it could take you an hour to do those assignments that I have. You know, I don't have, it's like 5 things that you have to do. But for you to watch the videos, read the chapter, do the assignments, it's going to take about an hour to 4 hours, depending on how thorough you are. If you rush through it, then obviously you're going to get done with it faster. But what I want to remind you, because this is what sometimes bites students in the end when they go to take a test, if you're rushing through this, then you're not retaining it, and it's going to really hurt you when you go to take the test. So I really recommend that you take the time to watch the videos and watch the PowerPoint or look at the PowerPoint and understand it. And if you don't understand it, asking questions when we have our Zoom meetup, because that's going to really help you with your retention of it. You have to look at it that if we were really in class together, we would be meeting 2.5 hours each week. And that'd be, you'd have to come to class, sit in class for an hour and 15 minutes on Tuesday, hour and 15 minutes on Thursday, and then you do your assignments outside of class. So when I say you could do it within an hour, that means you're skimming. You're not really taking in the content. You're just doing the assignment and getting it done. But if you take the time to get the lecture and read the assignments, it is going to help you on your test. So really make sure that you're not just rushing through everything, or you're going to have that hurt you when you go to take the test. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to have to take 4 hours, because if you look at a lot of these videos, they're like 30 minutes. So if you watch them from time to time, it's not going to feel like a 4-hour block. You just do it when you have time. You know, you can even listen. You don't have to watch it. Just listen to it as you're driving around or, working on something at home. But on top of that, you should be thinking ahead about the following weeks. So for example, if you look at week 3 here, I am going to make this, let me see, hold on one second. I leave student view and I go down to week 3. I'm going to make this the next thing that we look at. In week 3, it says that your resume is due by Sunday night, which would be this coming Sunday night. It's not going to count off if you don't turn it in by Sunday night, but it's going to help me if you turn it in by Sunday night, because it'll give me something to look at to kind of get to know you. So Levi, I might look at his resume before we get online and our Zoom one-on-one interview. And I might say, oh, hey, I saw that your major is this, or, hey, I noticed you went to this school, or I noticed you work at Starbucks. What's that like, or whatever. You don't have to upload your resume by Sunday night, but it is going to be due by the end of your interview week. So if you look at it from my end, you'll see it's available for you to upload well past the 25th, Monday. But I would like for you to submit it by the 25th, because I'd like to be able to look at it before we meet one-on-one. Does that make sense? Everybody with me? Any question about that? Nope. Okay, perfect. So now let's look at the other assignment. The other thing that we're going to talk about when we meet in our interview, oh wait, cancel, is we're going to talk about the week 3 identity management. Oh no, hold on. We're going to talk about this collage. So when we meet on this interview, the reason I call it the identity management interview is because we are going to be talking about your first submission of a big assignment, which is this collage assignment. And so this assignment goes into a lot of details, and it's not due until, Let me see the due date that's on there. It's not due until February 1st. But if you're waiting until February 1st or the whatever, January 31st to turn it in and start working on it, you're going to be way behind. So I would recommend that you're starting to look at this assignment now and reading about it and thinking about what you might want to do. And then when we meet in our identity management interview, you could say, hey, I'm thinking about these 10 slides to put in to introduce the class about who I am. And I'm going to show you an example of that when I email you on Sunday or Monday with next week's interview information. But what I want you to start thinking about after you do the assignments for this week is that I have an upcoming assignment that's due on February 1st. What should I be thinking about? I may not complete it, but I should be thinking about it in advance. Is that everybody with me on that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to stop share real quick. All right, anybody have any questions? And I will post this video to Canvas again, just like I did last week. I'll send it out and say, here's the video from today's discussion, just in case I talked about something fast and you weren't able to, really take it in and understand it. But I go through all the definitional terms, all of the lessons in reference to chapter 1 and chapter 2. That is in all of those 4 videos and in the PowerPoint. If you watch those, you'll be golden. Okay. All right. If you don't have any questions, you are free to go. And I'll be on. I'm just going to stay on. If you have questions, I'll still be here.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good morning.
Thank you. You too.